$1 for every time that my life took a sour turn, I'd be rich and rolling baller and hollering at your girl. I'd be making little money and spending it like I'm rich. I'd be making bad decisions and thinking that I'm the. If I had $1 for every time that my life took a sour turn, I'd be rich and rolling baller and hollering at your girl. I'd be making
video. This feels weird because it's like a sit down and talk video. And
okay, guys, died cookie. Now I've put her on 1.75 because it's 20 minutes. And I feel like this is going to be a soul-sucking experience. She's talking about culture shock. Now, we know that she's one of the most ignorant, stereotypical people when it comes to culture and truly investing herself in something different. So I'm not looking forward to this one, but I'm going to do it because I want to do it with you. And, yeah, so let's go.
I haven't made one of these in a little while, but I like doing them once in a while to talk about certain subjects. So today's subject is going to be cultural differences. I get asked a lot to talk about cultural differences between here and Canada. If you're new here, I'm Canadian. I'm from Ottawa, Ontario, born and raised in...
Ma'am, you've got about 200 people that are new. No one's new. We're all old.
Canada, and I recently married a Syrian man, Salah.
Recently fake married a Syrian man that she met. Married him after, what was it? How long had they known each other? 2 weeks? Yeah, but they didn't fall in love, guys. Anyone knew it's not true love. They didn't fall in love. He wants citizenship. She's despo for a hubby. That's the sitch.
He is Syrian. He was born and raised in Kuwait. So I'm currently in Kuwait, and I get asked a lot, basically, if there's any kind of culture shock. So I'm sure you guys want to know my perception of the society, how I compare things with the Western world where I'm from, and...
Everything's better in Kuwait than it is in the West. We know your perception, Foodie. You say it every day. You haven't found one single thing about the Middle East you do not like. And that's not normal. You usually go somewhere and go like, I don't like this food. I don't like this drink. Oh, it's really hot. I'm not used to that. No, everything's great. Everything's beautiful. Everything's fresh. Everything's amazing.
What it's just been like for me on this journey so far. Honestly, there's not as much culture shock as I imagined because I did do some research before I came here out of respect. I always want to be respectful.
How could you not have culture shock when you come from a place like Canada to a place in the Middle East, in Kuwait, that is an Islamic country? I would be disappointed if there wasn't some culture shock because I've gone somewhere so very different. Just the landscape is different. The language is different. The clothing is different. The food is different. The way they poop in their outdoor toilets, different. The body language, different. The way men and women interact, different. How can it not give you some culture shock?
Of different cultures and their customs. So if I ever travel anywhere, it's going to be important for me to respect these differences. To me, differences, especially cultural, are not bad. It's just that they're differences, and that's what they are. So I try to embrace everything and try to understand everything that I can. We don't always have to agree with things when things are different and we're not used to them, or things we don't understand, but it's still important to respect them. So I'm going to talk about some things, some misconceptions I believed before coming here, some things that I found very different, and then some things that some information I got from the Kuwait visa website, which makes sense. It's where you can go and get an e-visa from a select list of countries. If your country's on there, you can apply online to get a tourist visa here. Kuwait is a lot more open to tourism than it was in the past, and compared to a lot of other Middle Eastern countries as well. But the information...
This is not an essay about what is Kuwait. This is about culture shock. Is it because she hasn't seen enough of the culture yet that she could freely talk about what the differences are? Has she just been out to go to the towers, a shopping mall, and the bakery down the road that sells her sweets? Is that all the culture that she's experienced? And Salah? Because I feel like she hasn't had enough experience yet to make any actual comparatives. That's what it feels like.
On the website probably to prepare travelers from different parts of the world as to what you can expect when it comes to different cultural customs here. So I'll just share some of this information with you if you are thinking of coming here, because this place is beautiful, as you've seen from our vlogs. The beaches, everything, just the food, the people are so friendly. It's amazing here. So yes, let's get into it. That's kind of going to be all over the place in my style of doing a video. But anyway, one of the biggest things I was surprised about, I thought for some reason, probably like a lot of people, I was ignorant a lot when it came to thinking of the Middle East. I thought of like everyone in the Middle East just being like much poorer than Canada or the US. And it's just like a really small way of thinking, but that's how I thought. And I thought, oh, you know, like I'm Canadian, my money's going to go a long way there. And it's actually like Kuwait is like the fifth richest.
This does not surprise me because she thinks anybody who lives outside of Canada is a third world country. Nobody thought that, Foodie, except you. Most grown-ups who watch the news or speak to people from other places realize that not everybody's a broke ass. Sometimes they move for opportunities that they themselves want to explore and see other parts of the world. They have a wandering spirit. Not because they're broke. They move for opportunity. Wow. But this feeling is not surprising because she's expressed that before. She's entitled Westerner who thinks nothing is good as the West.
In the world, from what I read, but their currency is worth a lot more than Canadian money. So, like, for example, 1 KD equals like 4.4 Canadian dollars. So if you do the math, so yeah, when it comes to money, I just try not to really deal with it as much as I can because it really confuses me, and my money's not worth much here. So it's better to like save as much as I can just for when I'm in Canada because it's just worth more there. Another thing I won't do here is drive. I've already talked about that in my live streams ad nauseum, so I'm not going to talk about that. But I do not want to drive here. We'll just leave that up to Sala. So, all right. Another thing I found different is the reversal of weather, climate changes. Obviously, it's so hot here. Right now, it's winter months here, so it's actually in like the 20s. But the sun is really hot during the day sometimes. And
she's not talking about anything that we haven't already heard about or could figure out for ourselves. This is not her personal view. This is just stuff that she's Googled. The most obvious stuff. I want to know sights, sounds, smells, language, ordering food in a shop, going to a pharmacy. I want to know those cultural differences because I want to know the things that's unexpected, not the blatant, obvious things that we already know, that anybody would already know.
Night, it's really nice out. It's like in the 20s. It's perfect weather, not too humid most times. But in the summer, it's unbearable, up to like 60, I think I heard like 63 degrees Celsius. You could fry an egg on the ground.
Nobody's going outside in 60-degree heat. Coming from a place where it's a hot country, that's probably not going to be in the cities. Probably the cities where the people actually live will probably get up to maybe the high 30s, maybe the 40s. The 60s will be the harshest part of the country. And when it's that kind of temperature, people just stay inside, put the aircon on and drink lots and lots of water and keep cool. It's just an advisory warning. It'd be like a snow day. When the weather's really, really cold, you just don't go out in it. You stay inside, you keep warm, you keep your kids safe and the vulnerable safe. So you can stop saying the 60-degree thing because that is an extreme end of the stick. It's not an everyday occurrence. People would be dead and dying. That is a heat wave.
Most people, the weather is not comfortable in the summer here to where people tend to live inside the malls, inside their homes with air conditioning. There's AC everywhere, cars, jobs. It's just you wouldn't be able to. It would be like living in Canada in the winter months without a heater. It's very, very opposite that way. In Canada, a lot of the time it'll go down to like minus 30, 35 sometimes. You can't be outside for very long in that. You need to be in the heat. Here it's the reverse. It's so hot you need to be in the AC. And because of that, certain things are...
Duh, Foodie, duh. Yeah, we know. We're not dumb. People can... This is not new information. This is not new information. And this is not personal. This is not your experience. This is anything anyone could figure out.
Different, like camping in the winter here. We don't camp in the winter in Canada. We camp in the summer. Things like corn, certain things that are in harvest, like corn is really big in the winter here, more at the end of summer in Canada. Mating season for animals, for cats, winter, and in Canada it's in the spring, beginning of summer. So just like little differences like that, I find very interesting. We'll say, and I get this information, I say this with utmost respect to Kuwaiti, Arab culture in general. It's very different. It's very different with values. At least Kuwait, very conservative values, very conservative country. It's an Islamic country. 75% of people are Muslim. However, there are different religions here, and that remaining 25% of people are allowed to practice freely. You have seen in the grocery stores, the Santa Claus, the Bath and Body Works Christmas things. So they do have they have respect for people who want to practice different religions, though mostly they practice in their homes or things like that. It's predominantly Muslim. So because it's an Islamic country, they practice Ramadan here. They take it very seriously. And during the month of Ramadan, even as a foreigner, anyone who lives here, and again, if you're traveling here, please keep in mind if you're here during the month of Ramadan, it's a very religious month for Muslims, and there are...
Why is she talking about Ramadan? She's not experienced Ramadan. She's not gone through Ramadan. Ramadan's not coming up. It's part of the culture. Like Christmas is part of Christianity. Ramadan's part of the Islamic culture. She's not talking about something she's experienced. So why is she talking about a culture shock she has not experienced yet? That she's not even going to be participating in because of her medical issues, and she won't even probably be there. So why is she talking about it?
Laws that will put you in jail if you don't respect them. Even as a foreigner, you have to be respectful of that. I fully understand that. I don't have a problem with that. Someday I would like to try Ramadan. You have to fast until sundown. So if you're seen in public chewing gum, drinking, eating, unless you have like a medical exemption or something like that, mostly if you do, you still don't go in public. I think it's custom to just stay in the home, but you can be fined or arrested for not respecting those laws. Just like anywhere, if you don't respect the laws, you're going to be in trouble, right? Some other things that are illegal in Islamic culture, things that are considered haram, such anti-Muslim, so things like pork products, alcohol, marijuana, drugs, anything like that. It's also haram for Muslims to have
All the things Foodie likes.
dogs as pets in their home. So I know that you guys, a lot of you in the Western world, really love pets. I have cats. I love my cats. Having cats in the home is fine. It's not. It's not usual. Just pets in general. In a lot of parts of the world, it's like that. But the Western world, we love our pets. But here, dogs, if they're useful, like hound dogs for hunting, police work, gathering sheep, things like that, that's permitted. But to have a dog in the home is haram. So that is why you see them in the zoo with other animals. On the other hand, that's very different from where I come from.
That is not why you see him at the zoo and have him in the... No, that makes no sense. I understand why people would have their dogs living outside in shade and with water and with food. Because in Australia, like our dogs live in my household, our dogs live outside. Our last dog was an outside dog. She hated being inside. She hated the floors. Didn't like it. Lived outside. She had a 9x3 patio that was entirely her own. She had shade. She had 3 metal water bottles. She had food for days. She had a massive yard to run around in. It's basically like she had her own bedroom outside. She didn't like coming inside. But the next dog we have will be an inside dog, and that's just the choice we make. Dogs living outside is not a hardship for them if they're well cared for. But putting them in a zoo, that makes no sense. Just because they live outside does not mean you're going to put them in a zoo, especially tiny little Pomeranians with their hair like that. That is such a stupid logical leap to make, Chantal.
But you don't realize it until you realize Canada is very secular, which means that there's no government mixing with religion to govern the country. I will say it's a lot more peaceful here in a lot of ways. I think that my personal belief is...
I've looked at the law stats, and Australia has better law stats than Kuwait. Japan, Korea, some parts of the US have better stats than Kuwait. It's peaceful to the eye, but you don't go out in it. You don't go out into the society. The numbers don't read the way. You may think it's more peaceful because you have this perception of the stereotype of what an Islamic and a Muslim person is, but the society has flaws just like every other culture, Chantal.
Because of these laws in place, the big conservative placement of value, respect, I think a lot of the reasons that alcohol and drugs and things like that are haram is because it's damaging to the mind and body and to the spirit. And if you're religious,
But those things only contribute to certain behaviours. There are other behaviours that happen in those kinds of countries that are illegal, that are harmful, that are acts of violence, that are against the law. You're just discounting those acts that are aggravated by those things. There are other things that happen, and you're ignoring those.
And you value God and you value yourself, you won't want to hurt yourself with substances. And that has been really meaningful in my journey to recovery as an addict, which I do still struggle with, just mostly with food here and there. But when I was back at home and substances are readily available.
Are you talking about the kilo of sweets that you ate yesterday and the half kilo the day before and the 17 chocolate bars? Is that what you're talking about? That's what I think you're talking about.
You can overindulge on everything over there. And it's a different vibe. Like, again, I've heard people say it's there's so many like big malls and things, so it's like flashy like Vegas, but minus the debauchery. And I have to agree with that. You don't see people falling over drunk here, throwing up on the street, making jerks of themselves, and it's you just don't see it here. And it's a very peaceful vibe. You hear the prayer on the street, people just respecting everything.
It's not the prayer, it's the call to prayer.
And I don't know. I find it very peaceful here in a way that I guess unless you live it, you might not really understand it. That's why I like traveling the world. And
no, people understand concepts, Foodie. We understand that our dry country, because we have dry communities in Australia too. That's a whole nother issue. But there are places that are dry which have no alcohol. I wouldn't expect to see somebody falling down drunk. I wouldn't expect to see someone falling down drunk in the streets here in the middle of the day. That would be an unusual thing to see. because that's not a regular thing to see pretty much anywhere. Maybe at night time, maybe on a Friday or a Saturday night, you might see that. But I don't expect to see that when I'm walking down the street to go to the mall. If I was going to a bar on a Saturday or a Friday night, I may see that. Dry places, I wouldn't expect to see that. But I don't expect to see that now unless I go specifically looking for it. And debauchery, you make it sound like it's hedonism. It's like we're all just having sex on the streets in the back of bushes. I walk out the front yard and my neighbours are going to be going at it on the bonnet of their car. The West is not the orgy that you're trying to paint the picture of. And Kuwait is not this paradise of innocence and purity that you're trying to paint it as. Every culture has its problem. Every culture has violence. Every culture has assault. And there are people that do get alcohol in those places. It's very illegal, but they do get it. You're naive, Chantal.
And being more interested in different cultures, because it opens your mind to a lot of things that you never would think about living in the same geographical location for your whole life, you know?
No, you don't need to travel to be open-minded, to be interested in the world. Some people can't afford to travel, Foodie. Some people don't have the resources to do it, but have a really strong desire and do go looking for the differences and the similarities in cultures and in people. You forget that there are people as part of the culture. The people often are the part of the culture. They create the art, they create the music, they create the food. They create the values and the cultures that they live by and the practices and the habits and the rituals that they have. There are people. They're not just things. They are actual real people behind all of this. And you're not interacting with any of them. We haven't seen you be with anyone but Salah.
And I will say, I do see a lot of comments. People are in disbelief with a past like my own, coming from such an open place. With a past like mine, how can we make it work? And I have to say, Salah's been nothing but just like so open to, he sees the changes in me, he's supportive of it, and he actually helps. Like I've said many times, being with someone who helps you on this healing process, recognizes that you have a good heart and a willingness to change and respect yourself more, and it's just made such a difference in this journey. I'm not perfect, and I'm still struggling sometimes. Change is not linear, and it's not overnight. If everyone's patient with me.
So you wipe a kitchen bench down every now and again, and you put a hijab on, and you've changed. Is that the change? Because nothing else about your personality has changed. You just don't get high now. That's literally the only difference that I can see, is that you wear a hijab and you don't green out at the end of every day. You're still nasty to people. You still call people names. You still get angry and rage nonsensically. You still blame everyone for your problems. You still say everybody's triggered. You still can't let go of your own ego. You're still chasing after Natty. You're still being awful to Dee Dee. You haven't changed at all. You are just more conscious and able to filter the things you say, because you don't do live streaming as much as you used to. You edit your videos so you can edit out those truly horrible things you say. And you don't get high and green out at the end of each day now. They're the only changes that have happened. Nothing internal in your heart or in your mind has changed. You are still the rotten foodie to your core.
I think I'm on the right track. I feel it. One thing, speaking of acceptance and friendliness and big hearts, is how welcoming people are. One of the cultural customs is hospitality. People are so nice. And even people here who have hardly anything, or just even if they're struggling, or even if, no matter what walk of life or financial situation they have, if you are welcomed into someone's home, they will treat you like royalty. They will share their best food with you. They will just be so friendly and welcoming. And it's just, I mean, like you've seen on my live stream, neighbors will bring us like olives at midnight, or just anytime they quickly think of you, they bring you food. And so I've kind of learned, okay, you know what? I like this, and I'm going to share too. So whenever
That's not a culture shock. That happens here. You move into a neighborhood and someone will bring over a box of chocolates, or there'll be a welcome note in your letterbox. People work here, Foodie. People work. And we live in houses mostly here. But if somebody moves into an apartment building, you get a note under your door. Welcome to the apartment building. I'm number 34, or come say hi. We may not give food, but we at least say hello and we try and welcome the people. That's not a culture shock. That's just how people are like that all over the world. People are loving and caring all over the world. That's not specific to your culture. You think it is, but it isn't. Just because you're not that way, it surprises you. It's surprising for you to see other people acting that way, because you don't act that way towards them.
He brings us something and the dish is empty. Now we fill it with something and give it back. So it's a really, they rely on this kind of community of friendliness to help each other. That being said, I did learn that it's custom. If somebody offers you something in their home, try not to turn it down, because usually they're offering you something they're proud of making or something. Like we went to someone's home and they offered, I wasn't hungry and I was kind of full because they made us like some food and we just had dinner, but they offered me like
This is a lie, because she's never full. And if Foodie offered me food at her house, I'm definitely turning it down, because she doesn't clean. She is nasty. But that's right anywhere. Somebody offers you a cup of coffee and a biscuit, you usually accept. Their house would have to be dirty and unsanitary for me to refuse it. But you usually say yes. That's just being polite. That's not just in Kuwait. That's everywhere, Foodie. These are normal things. Do you not go to other people's homes? Do you not know this? Is this the first time that you've ever been outside the house in a friend's house or somebody's home and they've offered you food or a drink or a seat? You take what is offered. That's just being polite. That's not regulated to Kuwait.
with that, like a fresh banana smoothie, and I was like with some fresh bananas I just got, and I said no, no thank you, and they kind of looked at me like, like didn't really understand, and then they offered me again later, so I did say yes that time, and it was delicious. But also, if you're eating and you don't want to eat anymore, be sure to leave a bit of food on your plate, because they'll just keep filling your plate with food. Like, people really like to feed people here and be nice, and it's like a heartwarming feeling I can't explain. It's such a peaceful culture, peaceful religion. The people are so amazing, and yes, it seems conservative probably to people in the Western world, but as long as you're respectful, there should be no problem. Same thing if you want, like if you're
Respectful doesn't mean you have to wear a hijab if you're not of the faith. If they're warm and loving and welcoming like you think they are, then you don't need to wear that hijab unless they request you to wear one. You're doing it to try and fit in a bit more and make yourself look a bit more part of the culture. But people can see straight away, just by the way you talk, the way you act, that you are not Islamic. The people that have lived in that religion know that you're not trying to learn about it and that you're not part of them. You're not fooling them or us, Foodie. You are just making yourself look like an idiot. And the people that have to live by the rules because they are part of the religion and truly, truly believe in it, have that faith, no matter how forgiving they are and compassionate and loving they are, that will irk them. That will irk people because they're living under conditions that you're choosing without the faith part of it. You can go back home to Canada and not wear this anymore and not have to live by the structure anymore. Whereas they do and they want to where they're at home. I would not like someone coming in and faking my faith. That would bother me and annoy me. And people who get bothered and annoyed over there are genuine consequences. So I'd be very careful, Foodie. This is probably why she doesn't go and talk to people and meet people, because I know she's a fraud the second they come across her.
Having coffee. It's custom, like after meals, to have some tea or Arabic coffee with some like salty seeds, like sunflower seeds or nuts. But if you don't like, this is more for men who do this. Men, if you're done drinking, you have to shake your glass because people will just keep filling it. One thing I see a lot is talk about the differences between men and women. So even on the website, the visa website, it does say Kuwait, like a lot of Islamic countries, are predominantly patriarchal, meaning they're male dominated. But I find that Kuwait is a lot more open compared to some countries. Like women can drive and things like that now. They're in the workforce with equal pay. There are certain things that women and men do separate. And in my blog, that's all that I meant. But I did edit out that part because I felt like...
Does she know what equal pay means? Does she know what that means? I don't think she understands what that means. Oh, Foodie, you're dumb.
He wasn't explaining it properly. First of all, men and women, it's custom that they socialize separately, usually, especially in public. In the home, it's different. In the home, you can do whatever you want. You can dress however you want. You're married, you're together, it's your private home. But in public, there's certain customs. And in my video, I just meant we were just doing things separately. Actually, the women can smoke shisha if they want to. It's a personal choice. What I'm wearing is a personal choice. Women, I would say there are women, mostly from other cultures. There's a large Indian and Filipino population here. A lot of them don't cover because they're not Arab or they're not Muslim. And the ones who are, though, I usually see them.
But you're not Muslim or you're not Arab, so why are you covered up, Foodie? I had a friend who lived in Kuwait and she didn't have to cover up. She was Filipino. She didn't have to cover up. She just wore whatever she liked. She just kept it modest. But you're not Filipino or Indian. You're a white Canadian lady who is faking being a Muslim by her dress.
Usually always in hijab, or in a lot of women I've seen in niqab as well. So back to the men and women doing separate things. There's actually a custom called Diawaniya. I had to practice that a few times, so that's maybe why there's a jump cut there. Diawaniya is gathering of men at where they socialize, cafes, smoke shisha together, have drinks, non-alcoholic, and just socialize together. Again, it's very conservative that way, which is why we also deleted some things that, I'm learning. So if I do something that's a little bit out of the norm or a little questionable, it's just out of ignorance or just forgetting or not aware at all. I mean, you can prepare and research all you want, but, experience is the biggest teacher, right? So I do edit things out of respect or just to avoid problems in the future. But public displays of affection are very big no-no. Even with the most loving married people, all men and women do not do that in public here.
But that does not include Salah and Foodie, because they are not the most affectionate couple. Just in case there was some confusion.
Each other. If you do come here, even though you don't have to technically cover your head, out of respect, they do expect you to dress conservatively as a woman. So covering your shoulders, covering at least, down to your ankles. I usually go out always in an abaya, sometimes niqab. I've been sometimes wearing that, but always in hijab. The niqab, actually, it's comes to here, and the air actually flows under it. It's not covered like a mask, so it's not too bad, and it just goes under this with an elastic, so it's actually not that uncomfortable. It's not really uncomfortable, actually, and I'm kind of used to this. Sometimes it is hot, I'm overweight, and I'm fully covered, so until, it took some getting used to, but I'm getting a lot more used to it, and being here in the winter is so much better, from what I'm told. I don't think I could stand a summer here, but yeah. Alright, so that's about it for this video. I think I've said everything I want to say. I will be doing a lot more videos, and a lot more videos talking about my experiences. I do have a weight loss video coming up. That will just mostly be me updating you on that topic in my life.
But why? Why are you going to talk about your weight, Foodie? It doesn't matter if you're 800 pounds. Weight's inconsequential. Doesn't matter. But it's so very important to you that we know that you've lost weight, right? If it's not important, you shouldn't talk about it, because then we won't talk about it. You talk about it, reactors are going to talk about it, and the people that watch you are going to talk about it. And then you're going to yell at us for asking about it. If you don't want it as a conversation of topic, stop talking about it. That's all I can say.
Because it is a big thing in my life, and yeah, I'll just be coming up with that video at some point, so stay tuned. Also, we are going to be doing more videos on the couples channel, so I will also be doing some live streams while Salah's at work, so stay tuned for those as well. I really appreciate you guys who are still here. I know that every change I go through in my life, good or bad, I lose people along the way, and that's a lesson for me. It really teaches me who my real friends and supporters are, and I don't say that to try to shame people, but it's just a fact that
she doesn't have real friends and real supporters, because the ones that she does have, she dumps the second that they dissent. The second that they disagree with some stupid idea or decision she makes, you're out. So anybody who is a Beezer that watches her, the second that you go against her, you're gone too. So fair weather friends.
People come and go in life, and people will, your real friends will be there through no matter what. So yes, anyways, lots of lessons, but I'll save those for another video. Alright guys, I've blabbed enough here, and again, very beautiful country in closing, and I'm very glad that I'm here and experiencing it with Salah. So, and you guys along on the journey. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye, masalama.
Pretty much what I expected from Foodie. A lot of talking and a whole lot of nothing. There was nothing there that we couldn't have Googled for ourselves or just found out by going onto one of the travel websites. I would have loved some personal anecdotes, experiences out shopping, going to the market, interactions with the ladies. There has got to be more than just listening to the call to prayers and it's hot. There has to be more than that. But thank you for watching with me. If you'd like to leave me a like, comment on what things you would have loved to have heard Foodie talk about, or any of your own experiences if anybody's been to the Middle East. And subscribe if you can. All right. Bye, everybody.
Lorito, dime si te acuerdas cuando estaba aquí. Purple flowers, escuchando a Dakiti. Siempre en mi mente cuando piense en ti, hablándome en otro idioma, sí, baby. 사랑한다고 말해줘, 사랑한다고 말해줘. dímelo lento, baby, más lento. 사랑한다고 말해줘, 사랑한다고 말해줘.
me up one night Dime que me amas we can switch it up now now we can take it slow Banging on that Despacito club 안에서 처음 봐서 baby 혼자 있어 yeah 시간 있어 여기 나가 술 좀 마시자 밖에 놀다 라면 먹자 아직 집에 가지마 You could tell me anything 요즘 너무 생각해 broken 너무 뭔가 봐 답이 계속 나오네 버릇한 들어봐 You and I 늦었지만 better now than never baby alright 밤늦게 on my mind 말해줘 do or die 문제라면 baby know I got the answers tonight